Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خاتم الأنبياء وسيد المرسلين نبينا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحابته أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم زدنا ولا تنقصنا وأكرمنا ولا تهنا وأعطنا ولا تحرمنا وآثرنا ولا تؤثر علينا وارض عنا. اللهم إنا نسألك خير هذا اليوم فتحه ونصره ونوره وبركته وهداه، ونعوذ بك من شره وشر ما فيه وشر ما قبله وشر ما بعده، ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, it's an honor once again to be here in your presence, and as a substitute for our wonderful Imam Zayd, who is away today, and so I'm here once again to try to make up for his loss with regard to the presence here at this particular class. Today I've been asked to speak on Hadith number 31 of Imam Nawawi's Arba'een Hadith al-Nawawiyya, for the Hadith collection. And this Hadith begins عن أبي العباس سهل بن سعد الساعدي رضي الله تعالى عنه قال: جاء رجل إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم فقال: يا رسول الله، دلني على عمل إذا عملته أحبني الله وأحبني الناس. On the authority of Abu al-Abbas Sahl ibn Sa'd al-Sa'idi, may Allah be pleased with him, he said that that once a man came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, O Messenger of God, point me to a work or a deed that I can do whereby Allah will love me and the people will also love me. فقال ازهد في الدنيا يحبك الله. And then he said, renounce the world, or be indifferent to worldly matters. If you do so, Allah will love you. وَازْهَدْ فِي مَا عِنْدَ النَّاسِ يُحِبَّكَ النَّاسِ. Renounce what is with people, or show indifference towards what people have, and the people will love you. Hadithun Hasan. It is a fair hadith. Rawahu Ibn Majah wa ghayruhu bi asanida hasana. This is hadith number 31. And so, just to begin, the narrator of the hadith, Sahl ibn Sa'd al-Sa'idi, is the Sahabi al-Khazraji al-Ansari, who was from the Ansar. We know the two major tribes of the Ansar, the Khazraj and the Aus, and he happened to be a member of the Khazraj. He was an individual who was, according to the most popular reports, he died about 5 years. He was born about 5 years prior to the hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ, which meant that by the time the Prophet reached Medina, he was 5 years old, and so it would likely have been his first encounter of the Prophet ﷺ, which would mean as well that by the time the Prophet died ﷺ, that Sahl ibn Sa'd al-Sa'idi actually was only about 15 years old, according to the more standard views, and another view that implies that he was 20. But definitely, in either case, this would make him amongst what we call Sigar Sahaba, the minor Sahaba, or those who got most of their knowledge of the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ from the other Sahaba. And so, Sahl was born, his father named him Hazan, and Hazan means like rugged, rough. And the Prophet ﷺ changed his name to Sahl. which was the opposite of rough. So it was just if you're talking about the terrain, if you're going to talk about the terrain being rugged, you call it hazan. If the terrain is smooth and easy to travel, we call it sahl. And so this is where her name originates from. But at any rate, he remembered this incident, and he said a man came to the Prophet ﷺ, or perhaps even it could have been that someone related the incident to him. A man came to the Prophet and then asked that he advise him or point him to a type of work or deed by which he would be able to achieve both the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the love of the people. And what's interesting about this is that the Prophet ﷺ didn't respond and tell him, what's your concern with what the people think? Which is indirectly lets us know that that achieving the love of the people is part of achieving God's love as well. So because Islam is not only about our relationships with the Creator, but it's also about our relationship with people. Often I think about people who antagonize so many others, and I say to myself, well, I wonder how many people are going to show up at their funeral. Some people are always in these situations. But at any rate, he had this concern. This man had this concern. He wanted Allah to love him, but also he wanted the people to love him. And the Prophet's advice was, izhad fi dunya. Izhad fi dunya yuhibbaka Allah. Which is a word, the word zuhd can take on many different translations, but I believe that, I have the word that comes to mind when I read it at the moment is we call renounce. Renounce the world. Renounce the dunya, you say. And the dunya being actually a synonym for al-hayatud dunya, the lower life, means this realm where we live, that less important realm. It said, renounce it. Show an indifference toward it. And as in another hadith, ad-dunya mal'una, that the world is cursed, mar'unun ma fiha, and all therein is cursed. Illa dhikrullah wa alimun, or illa dhikrullahi wa alimun muta'allim. Except for the remembrance of God, a learned person and one learning. ولو كانت الدنيا تزن عند الله جناح بعوضة ما سقى كافرا منها شربة ماء. And if the world had weighed in that swing in the sight of God, then Allah wouldn't give a non-believer one drink of water. And so here the Prophet advised him, izhad fi dunya, renounce it, show an indifference toward it, withdraw from it. And zuhd sometimes is translated as asceticism, be an ascetic. وَاسْهَدْ فِي مَا عِنْدَ النَّاسِ يُحِبَّكَ النَّاسِ. And renounce what is with people, show no concern for what people have, or no desire for what people have, and the people will love you as well. Imam Nawawi, in his commentary, he goes on to say, قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم izhad fi dunya yuhibbaka Allah. Renounce the world and Allah will love you. And he comments on the word zuhd. He said, الزهد ترك ما لا يحتاج إليه من الدنيا وإن كان حلالا. It said, الزهد, which translate as indifference or renouncement or asceticism, many different ways you can translate it, but it means to abandon anything that one does not need of this world, even if it is lawful to have. Even if it's lawful to have. To renounce anything that one needs of this world, one does not need from this world, even if it is lawful for one to have. وَالْإِخْتِصَارُ عَلَى الْكِفَايَةِ, and to limit oneself to that which is sufficient, or basically what pretty much all you need, the things, your necessities. To limit yourself to your necessities. And this is a very strong, of course, a type of advice, and for a person to live in that way is extremely difficult, as we know. But many people do live that way and have lived that way. At any rate, and he continues. He says, "Well, what are tarku shubuhat?" And then another word which is often associated with asceticism, the term wara, which translates as scrupulousness. Scrupulousness is the abandonment of doubtful matters or the avoidance of doubtful things, right? Al-wara'. So if you're not sure if something is haram or halal, put it like that, then you abandon it. And this is similar to the hadith I covered last time as well. The issue of, that ithmu ma haka fi nafs, that sin is whatever troubles the heart, and even if people give you fatwa to the contrary, that so wara'. So that hadith was about wara', about scrupulousness, and this hadith is about something a little bit more. قالوا وعقل الناس الزهاد لأنهم أحبوا ما أحب الله وكرهوا ما كره الله من جمع الدنيا واستعملوا الراحة لأنفسهم. He said, and the scholars would say that the most wise of people or the most rational of people are the zuhad, or the ascetics. And that is because they love what God loves, and they despise or dislike what God dislikes of the world. Such as amassing worldly things. وَاسْتَعْمَلُوا الرَّاحَةَ لِأَنفُسِهِمْ. And they utilize comfort, repose, for the sake of their own souls. So the free time or the comfort that they experience in life, they utilize it in the service of their souls. قال الشافعي رحمه الله لو أوصى لعقل الناس صرف إلى الزهاد وصرف إلى الزهاد صرف. So if one happens to actually bequeath the right and the will, and you will your wealth to the most rational of people, and you don't mention exactly who you mean by that, so Imam Shafi'i said that this itself automatically is a reference, it should be given, the wealth should be given to the ascetics, because they're the most rational people. Right. So he's talking about a legal issue. So if a person put in his will that this amount, 1/3 of my wealth should go to the most rational people on the planet. Yeah, and so he doesn't. Who are those people? He said those are the zuhad. So he said Imam Shafi'i's position is that the zuhad, the ascetics, those people who withdraw or live according to only what they need. وَلِبَعْضِهِمْ, and one poet says كُنْ زَاهِدًا فِيمَا حَوَتْ أَيْدِ الْوَرَى تَضْحَى إِلَى كُلِّ الْأَنَامِ حَبِيبًا. And then one poet says, be a zahid, be an ascetic concerning what is in the hands of the creation. If you do so, you will become beloved amongst all creation. Because you use wara and anam, both of them creation. Well, الشافعي رضي الله عنه طلع عنه في ذم الدنيا, and he also has Imam Shafi'i also has another poem related to the censure of this world. And in this particular poem, he says, وَمَن يَذُقِ الدُّنْيَا فَإِنِّي تَعَمْتُهَا وَسِيقَ إِلَيْنَا عَذْبُهَا وَعَذَابُهَا. As it begins, he said, and whosoever tastes the dunya, this world or this life, I have also tasted it. Both its sweet and its bitter, or you can say that, or literally his punishment, both its sweet and its punishment, meaning its sweet and its bitter, I have acquired them both, or they have been conveyed to us. فَلَمْ أَرَاهَا إِلَّا غُرُورًا وَبَاطِلًا كَمَا لَاحَ فِي ظَهْرِ الْفُلَاتِ سَرَابُهَا. So upon seeing this and experiencing this, I have seen that it is nothing more than delusion and vanity, in the same way that a mirage appears in the midst of a desert. وَمَا هِيَ إِلَّا جِيفَةٌ مُسْتَحِيلَةٌ عَلَيْهَا كِلَابٌ هَمُّهُمَّ اجْتِذَابُهَا. And it is nothing more than a rotting corpse over which dogs they vie for, that their concern is to acquire it. فَإِن تَجْتَنِبْهَا كُنْتَ سِلْمًا لِأَهْلِهَا وَإِن تَجْتَنِبْهَا نَازَعَتْكَ كِلَابُهَا. So if you avoid it, then you will be a source of peace for its inhabitants, for this world. But if you pursue it, then the dogs of this world, they will vie for you vie with you in it. فَدَعْ عَنْكَ فَضَلَاتِ الْأُمُورِ فَإِنَّهَا حَرَامٌ عَلَى نَفْسِ التَّقِيِّ ارْتِكَابُهَا. So avoid or keep away from yourself all matters which are superfluous, things that are unnecessary. All unnecessary matters, because it is unlawful or haram upon the soul of the righteous person to ride upon such things. So irtikab usually means to commit something, is utilized often to, when you say commit a sin. So it's haram upon the heart of the righteous person to commit such sins. That is to say, for one to indulge into things that are beyond what is necessary. قوله حرام على نفس التقي ارتكابها يدل على تحريم الفرح بالدنيا. And so Imam Nawawi says, when he says that it is haram upon the nafs, or the soul of the righteous person, to ride upon such things, that statement itself is indicative of the impermissibility of one rejoicing about one's acquisition of this world, or celebrating one's acquisition of worldly things. وقد صرح بذلك البغوي في تفسير قوله تعالى وفرحوا بالحياة الدنيا. And he said, Imam al-Baghawi in his tafsir, he explicitly said that when he was commenting on Allah's statement in one particular surah, that in describing the people of the lost path, that farihu bil hayat dunya, that they rejoice about the lower life. ثم المراد بالدنيا المذمومة طلب الزائد على الكفاية. And then when he speaks about the blameworthy world, this is a reference to seeking out what is beyond one's necessity. أما طلب الكفاية فواجب. As for seeking out what is necessary from the world, that's compulsory. We have to do that, because without it we couldn't survive. قال بعضهم وليس ذلك من الدنيا. Said some have said that extent, meaning that which is necessary, is not considered to be part of the world. That's not part of the dunya. What your needs or your necessities, they're not part of the world. So basically, because when usually the word dunya is talked about, it's talked about in a very negative sense. And our spiritual masters, they say that we have 4 basic enemies. They say that we have the dunya is one of them, the world is one, shaitan or iblis is one of them. One is the nafs, the ego, and the other is the hawa, is our lower passions. So those are 4 enemies. And all of them, of course, occur in this dunya. So the dunya, of course, is the most general, most encompassing of all of them. And that extent that we take from the dunya, which is necessary, that is not considered to be part of the dunya. وَأَمَّا الدُّنْيَا فَزَائِدَةُ عَلَى الْكِفَايَةِ. As for what is considered to be dunya, or that is to say, that is categorized as something negative, is for us to take what is beyond what is necessary. واستدل بقوله تعالى زين للناس حب الشهوات من النساء والبنين والقناطير المقنطرة من الذهب والفضة إلى آخر الآية. So the person who made this statement or said that, he said, so one of the scholars said that extent, when you take the amount which is needed for us to survive, then that in itself is not placed into the category of dunya. And rather what is considered to be dunya is what is beyond, what is necessary. And so this particular person, istadalla biqawlihi, that he mentioned as a proof for his statement that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that the love of shahawat, of lusts, of women and sons, amongst other things, has been made fair seeming to people, or made to be fair seeming to men. And so basically is to say that the fact that even though this is not mentioned in the commentary, but the point is that the fact that the verse said that these things have been made fair seeming to an individual is proof that it is not necessary for you to actually have them. So otherwise, because if I'm hungry, I'm not going to eat food just because it's necessarily made fair seeming to me. It's like if I feel like I'm starving, I'm going to eat because I want to live, right? So, but other things have made fair seeming to me. Right. So estates, steeds of war, or just steeds in general. There's the different the amassment of wealth of many different forms, children, women, amongst other things which are mentioned, gold, silver, jewelry, all these things have been made fair seeming to us. And then he goes on, he says, فقوله تعالى ذلك إشارة إلى ما تقدم من طلب التوسع والتبسط. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this, that it is in itself is an allusion to all of what has been said regarding when people actually are seeking to amass and expand their ownership of things in this world. قال الشافعي رحمه الله تعالى, and he's quoting Imam Shafi'i quite a bit in this particular hadith and commentary. And Imam Nawawi was a Shafi'i himself, so of course he had a great love, deep love for Imam Shafi'i. And so Imam Shafi'i, may Allah have mercy on him, said, he said, طلب الزائد من حلال طلب الزائد من حلال عقوبة ابتلى الله بها أهل التوحيد. He said, seeking what is beyond what is lawful, seeking what's beyond what is lawful, is a punishment that Allah has tried the people of Tawheed with. That Allah has tried the people of Tawheed with, to seek what is beyond halal. I mean, seeking halal is something different. There's actually a hadith, طلب الحلال فريضة على كل مسلم. Seeking what is halal is, compulsory upon every Muslim. And so, as in the hadith, طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم, seeking knowledge is compulsory upon every Muslim. إن الله يحب أن يرى عبده يسعى في طلب الحلال. As a hadith that Allah loves to see his slave pursuing or aspiring to aspire in search of that which is lawful. ولبعضهم, and one poet, he said, لا دار للمرء بعد الموت يسكنها إلا التي كان قبل الموت يبنيها. That there is no abode for any person after death to live in, except for what that person was building before death. So there's no abode for a person after death to live in, except for that abode that one was building before death. فإن بناها بخير طاب مسكنه وإن بناها بشر خاب بانيها. So if one builds it, if he builds it with good, then it will be a good house. And if he builds it with evil, then the builder of the house will be in ruin. النفس ترغب في الدنيا وقد علمت أن الزهادة فيها ترك ما فيها. The soul desires or aspires for the world, even though it knows that showing indifference towards it is to abandon what is therein. فاغرس أصول التقى ما دمت مجتهدا واعلم بأنك بعد الموت لاقيها. So plant the roots of righteousness as long as you are diligent, as long as you are being diligent, and know that you shall meet it after death. You will meet all of that after death. Your abode, the righteous abode. ثم بعد ذلك إذا فرح بها لأجل المباهاة والتفاخر والتطاول على الناس فهو مذموم. And then after all of that, if one happens to rejoice over it because of a sense of competition or a desire to boast and show out others and feel as if they're better than them, then it would definitely be blameworthy. وَمَنْ فَرِحَ بِهَا لِكَوْنِهَا مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ فَهُوَ مَحْمُودٌ. But if a person rejoices over it while acknowledging or because of understanding that this is from the fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he's giving you, then that is praiseworthy. Right? So people giving wealth, they're giving knowledge, they're giving beauty, they're giving so many different things. And those people, they never forget that this is min fadlillah. So when I see someone who may not be as attractive as me, or someone who may not have as much wealth as I do, or knowledge as I do, then I don't feel or shouldn't feel that I'm better than they are. If anything, knowledge is supposed to do the opposite. Knowing who the my benefactor is, should not make me feel that I can look down upon a poor person, among other things. So if we are happy and rejoiceful about the blessings that we get, right, from the dunya, knowing why, doing it with the right understanding, then that itself is not a problem with rejoicing about things that we get. قال عمر رضي الله عنه اللهم لا نفرح إلا بما رزقتنا. So Umar ibn Khattab is reported to have said, "Oh Allah, we do not rejoice, or we only rejoice by what you have provided for us." وقد مدح الله تعالى المقتصدين في العيش. And Allah, He has extolled, or He has commended those people who are frugal or economical in their livelihood. فقال تعالى والذين إذا أنفقوا لم يسرفوا ولم يقتروا وكان بين ذلك قواما. That and those who, whenever they spend, they're not wasteful, nor are they tight-fisted, right? But they are a place between the two of those. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is praising the people who are maintain a balance in their expenditures and their as well, and in their income expenditures, but what they give and what they withhold. And there's a hadith as well that says, وَمَنْ أَحَبَّ لِلَّهِ وَأَبْغَضَ لِلَّهِ وَأَعْطَى لِلَّهِ وَمَنْعَ لِلَّهِ فَقَدْ اسْتَكْمَلَ إِيمَانَهُ. That whoever loves for God's sake, hates for God's sake, gives for God's sake, and denies for God's sake, then that person has perfected his or her faith. And then he goes on to say, بَقَالَ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَآلِهِ وَسَلَّمَ مَا خَابَ مَنِ اسْتَخَارَ وَلَا نَدِمَ مَنِ اسْتَشَارَ وَلَا افْتَقَرَ مَنِ اقْتَصَدَ. He said that no person who does istikhara will go to ruin. So no one who seeks Allah's guidance to that which is in their best good, or ask for Allah's guidance for that which will bring good to them, no person will be in ruin who does so. Nor will anyone who consults another regret. You seek counsel from another person, you won't regret it. So even if the counsel is not good, but it's still, you have an idea, you want to bounce it off somebody else, and hopefully they'll help you to enhance your own ideas. At least you'll find out if the advice is bad, how pretty good your own thinking is. But if another person's advice is even more and contributes and adds to your own, then good for you. And then وَلَا افْتَقَرَ مَنْ اقْتَصَدَ. And the one who is economical will never fall into poverty. That's part of the hadith as well. لَا افْتَقَرَ مَنْ اقْتَصَدَ. That the one who is economical will not fall into poverty. Right, so you keep a balance in terms of your wealth. Know what you have in terms of your wealth. Just keep spending and buying, right? Be aware of what's coming in and what's going out as well. من اقتصد. وكان يقال القصد في المعيشة يكفي عنك نصف المؤونة. And it used to be said in the past, right? Probably still today amongst many people, that frugality or economical dealings in one's livelihood will suffice one for half of one's provision. This is a more eloquent way to put it, of course, when I'm translating like on the spot. Give me some time, I can give you a real nice way to express that. But basically, the meaning is that if you you balance your finances well, then half of your provision is already taken care of, pretty much. That's what's meant by the statement. وَالْاقْتِصَادِ الرِّضَى وَالْكِفَايَةِ. Right, so in iqtisad, the word for economy or economics in the Arabic language, it is synonymous with the words ar-rida, satisfaction or contentment, wal-kifaya, and sufficiency. وَقَالَ بَعْضُ الصَّالِحِينَ مَنْ اكْتَسَبَ طَيِّبًا وَأَنْفَقَ قَصْدًا قَدَّمَ فَضْلًا. So, and one of the righteous people said that whoever acquires God requires something good and spends economically, then that person presents or sends forth a surplus. So whoever acquires a good thing, spends economically, then that person sends forth a surplus. And so, of course, it means in the spiritual sense. Right. So that's the start of the hadith, and so I just wanted to just read a couple other related comments on this particular hadith. And so those are comments from Imam Nawawi, and there are a few very limited comments from one scholar, another Shafi'i scholar, Ibn Daqiq al-Eid, who also has this commentary on the 40 hadith, Imam Nawawi. And first I have to find the right hadith. Just had it. There we go. And so he goes on to say, اعلم أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قد حث على التقلد من الدنيا والزهد فيها. That know that the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم, he encouraged us to limit the amount of things that we amass from this world, and that we show an indifference towards it. As he said in one hadith, كن في الدنيا كأنك غريب أو عابر سبيل. Said, be in this world as if you are a stranger or one crossing a path. وقال حب الدنيا رأس كل خطيئة. And he said that the love of this world is the head or the chief of every misdeed. وفي حديث آخر, and in another hadith, إن الزاهد في الدنيا يريح قلبه في الدنيا والآخرة. Verily, the one who withdraws from this world brings comfort upon his heart in this world and the hereafter. وَالرَّاغِبُ فِي الدُّنْيَا يُتْبِعُ قَلْبَهُ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. But the one who is seeking after the world, he tires brings fatigue upon his heart in this world and the hereafter. وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ مَنْ فِي الدُّنْيَا ضَيْفٌ وَمَا فِي يَدِهِ عَارِيَةٌ. Said, know that anyone, all of you, every person in this world is nothing more than a guest, and the things that you own are a loan. وَأَنَّ الضَّيْفَ مُرْتَحِلٌ وَالْعَارِيَةُ مَرْدُودَةٌ. I know that the guest will eventually depart, and the loan will be returned to its owner. الدنيا عرض حارض حاضر الدنيا عرض حاضر يأكل منها البر والفاجر. And so this is a hadith attributed to Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. He said that the world, the dunya, is a commodity, a present commodity from which both the righteous and the unrighteous eat. Right. So what you have is nothing special, because everybody eats from it. Anybody can have this. But not everybody can have Jannah, right? But what you have, And he said, وَهِي مُبَغَّضَةٌ لِأَوْلِيَاءِ اللَّهِ مُحَبَّبَةٌ لِأَهْلِهَا فَمَنْ شَارَكَهُمْ فِي مَحْبُوبِهِمْ أَبْغَضُوهُ. And so this world is something which is made hated to the friends of God, but made beloved or endeared to the inhabitants of this world, those who are not the friends of God. فَمَنْ شَارَكَهُمْ فِي مَحْبُوبِهِمْ. So whoever shares the same beloved, they will hate the ones who are who have appropriated it. Right. So for instance, if we all love the same house or the same car, the same man or the same woman, right? Or the same piece of land or whatever, same type of clothing. Right? Of course, mass production has made it easier for us to kind of like lessen those things, at least for those who can afford certain things, right? That to the extent that you love something, that in itself will also determine your degree of hatred of the individual who owns it, if you can't have it yourself. That is, if your heart is not in the right place. And this is what the hadith is about, is detaching your heart. Because and it's interesting because another definition that Imam al-Ghazali gives to is Zuhd, which I think is an extremely important definition, which Imam Nawawi doesn't mention. He says the definition of Zuhd is or say its reality is هو عزوف النفس عن الدنيا وانزواؤها عنها طوعا مع القدرة عليها. It is for the soul to withdraw itself from the dunya and retract back from it willfully retract from it while having the ability to acquire it. Yeah. So for instance, some people who just don't have money, and we've seen this, a lot of Muslims, and they say, well, I'm a zahd, right? I'm an ascetic. I've given up the dunya. Or no, perhaps you're just poor and you don't have the capacity to actually acquire the dunya. But the whole point of zuhd is that, you know what, I can actually have this if I want it, but I'm not gonna get it. Fadda. Mm-hmm. 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 Right, exactly. You give it, right. You don't want to be greedy, but that's a lot of greed out there, the Market Street. I mean, the stock market, and what do we call it? And I don't know, I forget the name. Wall Street. Yeah, that's at Market Street. I'm from Philadelphia. It's Market Street. Wall Street, Wall Street, and then also on Main Street too. I mean, because it was it was a marriage. The people who were invested, they wanted to maximize their profits, and the people who were managing their money wanted to maximize, and then eventually something happened. So when you go into business together, that you share both the profits and the losses as well. It's just that you don't like the fact that people get duped, but again, it's just that if you want to make a business deal, and you could actually potentially make a lot of money. Sometimes pass it on, especially when you find certain ethical things involved. So that is one thing he says. When he said, وَقَدْ أَرْشَدَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ السَّائِلَ إِلَى تَرْكِهَا بِالزُّهْدِ فِيهَا. So the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he advised the person asking in this particular hadith to abandon. He advised him to abandon it by renouncing it. وَوَعَدُهُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ حُبَّ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى وَرِضَاهُ عَنْهُ. And he promised him that in doing so, Allah will love him and he will be pleased with him. فَإِنَّ حُبَّ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى لِعِبَادِهِ رِضَاهُ عَنْهُمْ. Because the Allah's love of his servants is his satisfaction, his satisfaction with them. وَأَرْشَدَهُ إِلَى الزُّهْدِ فِيمَا فِي أَيْدِ النَّاسِ إِنْ أَرَادَ مَحَبَّةَ النَّاسِ لَهُ وَالْمَالُ حُبَّ الدُّنْيَا. Right. So, and he also advised him to renounce what people themselves have, if he desires the love of people. And then he says, وَالْمَالِ مَحَبَّةَ اللَّهِ وَالْمَالِ حُبَّ الدُّنْيَا. And I believe there's a mistake, it's a misprint here in the book, actually. So I'll just leave that sentence out. فإنه ليس في أيدي الناس شيء يتباغضون عليه ويتنافسون فيه إلا الدنيا. And so, basically, he probably said, "Al-mal huwa dunya." He said, "His mal hubb dunya." So, wealth is the love of the dunya. Wealth is the love of the dunya. He would probably say wealth is dunya, because he says there's nothing in the hands of people, what people possess, over which we hate one another and we do compete with one another, except for that it itself is the dunya. And then he concludes with a hadith, very powerful hadith. And he says, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, is hadith related by Imam Tirmidhi, said, من كانت الآخرة همه جمع الله شمله. That whoever's concern is the hereafter. Whoever makes this concern the hereafter, then Allah will bring together his affair, will bring together one's affair, وَجَعَلَ غِنَاهُ فِي قَلْبِهِ, and will place one's affluence in his heart. Will place one's affluence in his or her heart. وَأَتَتْهُ الدُّنْيَا وَهِيَ رَاغِمَةٌ. And the world will then at that moment come to the person, even though reluctantly. The world will be reluctant to come to oneself, but in spite of it, it still will come to the world. So whoever makes this concern, her concern, the hereafter, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take over that person's affair and place affluence in one's heart, and the dunya will come to you in that situation even though it will do so unwillfully. Of course, it's a metaphor. وَمَنْ كَانَتِ الدُّنْيَا هَمَّهُ شَتَّتَ اللَّهُ شَمْلَهُ. But whoever is concerned is the dunya, is the world, Allah will disperse his affair, وَجَعَلَ فَقْرَهُ بَيْنَ عَيْنَيْهِ, and will place poverty before his eyes. You always see yourself as poor, right? You never have enough. وَلَوْ كَانَ لِإِبْنِ آدَمَ وَادِيَانِ مِنْ مَالِي لَابْتَغَى ثَالِثَهُمَا. That whoever, if the son of Adam had 2 valleys of wealth, and in some narration 2 valleys of gold, that he would want a third. وَلَا يَمْلَأُ جَوْفَ إِبْنِ آدَمْ إِلَّا التُّرَابِ. But only dirt will fill the mouth or the hollow of the son of Adam. So you can't take any of it with you, regardless. وَلَمْ يَأْتِهِ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَا قُدِّرَ لَهُ. So whoever is concerned with the dunya, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will disperse his affair and place poverty before his eyes. And the only thing that will come to that person from this world is what has been decreed for him. Right. So your concern, your hum is there. وَالسَّعِيدُ مَنْ اخْتَارَ بَاقِيَةً يَدُومُ نَعِيمُهَا عَلَى بَالِيَةٍ لَا يَنْفَرُ عَذَابُهَا. So the fortunate person, the Sa'id, as opposed to the wretched person, Sa'id is when it's utilized in Hadith often, especially in theology, is an important word. One's Sa'id, you're happy. You're the happy person. It really more so a fortunate person, meaning that the individual who has been graced by God to make it to Jannah, inshallah. The happy person is the one who chooses that which persists and endures. The one who chooses that whose bliss shall endure over the thing which withers away and whose punishment will never come to an end as well. So these are 2 very important commentaries on the issue of Zuhd. So hopefully there was a lot of benefit that came from that, even though we know that the maqam of Zuhd is an extremely important and difficult maqam to reach, the station of Zuhd. But it is definitely on the path of Tawbah that the scholars, and they write about being upon the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It begins with Tawbah, that Tawbah is the first step towards reconciliation with the Creator. And Tawbah, coming from the word Taba, which means to return, is as if like we're returning to our state of innocence that we once were in Jannah. And so Tawbah, in order for one to properly pursue Tawbah, then one has to have a certain level of khawf, of fear, right? There has to be fear involved. So for instance, Ghazali gives this example of an individual who has for instance, a heart condition and goes to the doctor, or has a problem, with his health, and goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, well, if you don't stop eating this and this and that and that, then you're gonna die. You're gonna lose your mahbub, your beloved, and life is the thing most beloved to the individual. And so becoming educated about, the risk of losing one's beloved, so that is what essence, what khawf is about, fear is about, is to inspire in one, or raise one's awareness of what one risk will lose if he or she does not abandon a certain thing. And so khawf is important, but the true sign of khawf is zuhd. So to renounce or withdraw from things, that's the true sign of, because after khawf is zuhd. So tawbah, then khawf, then zuhd. So if I now realize, okay, I have to make tawbah, I'm on the path of tawbah, I'm fearful that I'm going to lose Jannah, I'm going to lose my loved one, right? So what do I have to do? I have to give up those things that will keep me from my beloved, right? So if I have to stop eating salts, right? Or whatever else, so if the doctor tells me I'm going to have a heart attack if I keep eating salt or greasy fried foods or whatever else, then I have to do those things. So zuhd is the next natural step in the path towards achieving what we call ma'rifah, a true sort of gnosis or realization and acquaintance with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if there are any questions, comments, تفضل. Bismillah. Is there a mic? Or he's asking for a mic. Yeah, inshallah, I'll try to repeat the question. Yeah, the question was the brother. He's from California, and he loves the fact that he's from California, and he wants to know: is it a form of love of dunya if you love where you're from? There's actually a hadith which I mean, it's not a very strong hadith, but it does exist. A hadith: "Hubb al-awtani min al-iman." Hubb al-awtan min al-iman. The love of one's homeland is part of faith. And so that hadith encourages one to have a certain amount of love for one's homeland. I mean, we're told to love our family members, we love our parents, we love our children, and none of those things fall into the category of we call it dunya. You know, if anything, these are things that we can avoid anyway. You know, that you tell me, Islam says you can't love your mother. Oh, stop! I don't love mom. I don't love you anymore. It's like yesterday I loved her my whole life. I don't love you anywhere. So it just can't happen like that. So, we love, where we go to school. We love, those times and things like that. Where we reminisce. We have these memories, so we visit those places. They have a certain special meaning for us. Hubb al-awtan min al-iman. That love of one's homeland is part of faith. So I mean, if the hadith is sahih, then there's clearly a lot of evidence to support the idea that it's okay if you want to have love. Now, of course, if the love turns up to something the level of now a chauvinistic type of love now, where we're talking about, okay, well, if anybody is not from California, it's just a square, right? That you follow me? That's something different. You guys, you're off it. If you weren't born here and grew up here, then. Let's get a little bit more of like a tribalism, and there's a problem with that. No, so. Indeed. Right. Right. So the question was, that it's good. We acknowledge that it's good to be a zahd and ascetic, in many regards, and but how do we balance that with the very fact that if an individual, a man, marries a woman, and she comes from a certain social status and financial status, that we are somewhat expected to maintain that particular financial social status for them. One is that zuhd starts in the heart. That being a zahid doesn't necessarily mean that you have no property. It doesn't mean that necessarily. You don't have wealth. The essence of a zahid is it begins as one whose heart is not attached to the wealth. You see, so I may live in a luxurious house or castle-like place, and I don't. But it's I might live in something like that. But how would I respond or react if I was kicked out tomorrow and then out on the street and then placed into a small one-room apartment? You see, if I feel bothered by that, then, and even if I claim to be zahid, then I'm not. But if I'm not bothered by that, then I'm a zahid, truly. You see, so it's about your heart more than anything else. However, the issue of trying to balance between the expectations of another person and your own expectations of yourself are two different things. So, for instance, I can still be a zahid in my marriage, right, and give my wife what she's not ready to give up. You follow me? I just happen to live there. But I myself can choose that I'm not going to eat this, I'm not going to wear this, I'm not going to buy this, right? You follow me? That it is possible. So and that's one of those major challenges. So I was actually thinking about this, something similar to this a few days ago, about how it's easier for us to manage our own spirituality, but it's difficult for us to manage other people's spirituality. You know, and oftentimes problems happen in marriages because one party is trying to manage the spirituality of the other. I've seen it happen, you know, in particular with regard to when, and I'm not discouraging this, but sometimes you find an individual might be a convert and then another person who's raised a Muslim. You know, I've seen a couple of situations where, you know, because I'm trying to associate these two. That I think there's can be connection as well. That, you know, the convert was hardcore, you know, tariqah, you know, type of, you know, whole TV, you know, anything in the house, and the sister, you know, was raised Muslim, and you know, and she, you know, came into Islam with a bit more sense of like, this is kind of just what I am, and it's normal. You see, you know, so things weren't such a big deal for her, and, you know, so, and after this number of years, you know, became a lot of strain between the two, because, like, you know, well, I want to watch TV, I want to go to a movie, and say, well, no, we stop for a law, you can't do it, and so you have sometimes that occurs, and so it definitely can be a source of friction in the house. And I'm not saying that, you know, that we should just simply accept anything from one another, you know, even women from men, you know, but it's that it can definitely be a problem when we're managing things, you know. So, I mean, in my house, like, you know, so I pray as a Maliki with my hands down on my sides, you know. But my wife's from Morocco, from a Maliki country as well. But, you know, most of the Moroccans, they pray like this. So, like, I never one day in my life, in our marriage, ever said to her, you know, astaghfirullah, you know, you're supposed to be a real Maliki and you pray like this. And not saying that, you know, that's what a real Maliki necessarily is, but some people have that understanding that you real Malikis pray like that, you know. But I never said it, but I just kept doing it. And all of a sudden she just started to do it as well. After a while, she's like, okay, well, she prays that way as well, you know. So, and sometimes I see my daughter do it, but I never tell my daughter, she learned in Hanafi, fiqh and Hanafi, you know, at her school, you know, but sometimes I watch her pray, all of a sudden she has her arms down at the sides, you know, just observation, you see, you know. And of course, I don't say to try to make it seem like I have to, like, you know, I'm the ideal sort of husband or whatever, or father, you know, but it's just some things to consider, you know. So it's easier for us to manage ourselves than it is for us to manage other people's spirituality. Yeah. No, definitely. That's healthy. It's healthy if you're worried about your heart. You know, all of us should be worried about our hearts, you know. Yeah, well, you keep managing it. You know, I think Dustin might have a question next. Yeah.
I think sometimes this type of study can also be used in an extreme where people become total rejectionists and reject society and whereas in the same book,
Right.
it's obviously telling us to reject injustice and to stand up against oppressors.
Right.
So how do you speak to those focus, especially within the traditionalist community? I see such a focus on this type of asceticism.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I mean, so the question relates to the issue of how this particular type of hadith, how it can often be utilized and is often utilized as a way to make Islam appear to be a very sort of quietist or individualistic type of religion, such that, you know, that we focus or limit our activity or define piety on the basis of only of what's happening with the individual. You know, how much the person is praying at night, you know, how much Arabic he knows, you know, how often does he fast. You know, those are all important things, you know, definitely, because this some call it sort of the private maximum. Dr. Jackson, you know, private maximum, you know. And so, but then, you know, we have to look at as well the examples of the Khulafa al-Rashidin, you know, that Umar ibn Khattab was a Khalifa. And this is an individual, I mean, had two changes of clothing, right? 2 garments, 2 or 3 garments, you know. That one report talks about how, you know, he had like 12 patches on his garment, right? Because they wouldn't get a new one. He could get a new one if he wanted to, right? But he would stitch just the holes in his garment, instead of getting the new garment. He was the Khalifa. He could have, listen, give me some money from the Beit al-Mal. I mean, so these people who are working without wage, a regular wage, they were doing it lillah, right? So you can be a zahid while at the same time still engaging with society, you see, but of course the mistake is that often people think that, okay, well, you can't do the both, that you can be, the idea is that you make sure that you take care of your spiritual life. Now, you can be an activist. You can go out and champion many different issues, but you have to make sure that there's enough spiritual reinforcement such that you're not easily sort of bought over by a certain type of offers, you see. So that's just the main thing, So definitely Islam is both about our relationships with the Creator directly, but then also with the creation. You can't exclude that part of it as well. Any sisters had their hands up? Oh.
Test one. Brother Manowar online would like to know the title of the books that you were reading from today.
Well, both the first two books were the Sharh al-Arba'in an-Nawawiyya, so the commentary on the Imam al-Nawawi's 40 Hadith collection. One was by himself, and then the other was by a Shafi'i scholar, Ibn Daqiq al-Eid. And then I read a section from Imam Ghazali's Arba'in fi Usul al-Din, which when I talked about the issue of his definition of Zuhd. Right. Abbas, you had a question, right? Right. Right. Yeah, again, so along the same lines of how this hadith may, serve the I don't want to say interest, but this hadith may be utilized as a way to reinforce the idea that the most important aspects of our daily existence is for us to be involved, constantly, totally immersed in just ritual worship. And the example of Sheikh Sadiq, the questioner, for the sake of those who are online, had said that that once he had asked Sheikh Sadiq what was the most amazing thing that he thought or knew of Sheikh Murabit al-Hajj, and so he said that it's because that he's always in worship, that he's always right. There's reason, he's always right. Has no time for dunya. And so when you hear those type of things, those type of pronouncements, and again, it leads to the impression that, okay, if these are exemplars, then we should also have no time for dunya. I think that a way to reconcile that is to think about it as, okay, well, people's opportunities and where Allah placed people. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He places people in certain situations and create certain conditions for them to do certain types of work and offer certain types of things to humanity. Perhaps that's all that he's able to offer us, that we get a glimpse at what an ascetic would look like through seeing someone like Sheikh Murabit al-Hajj. But you may see another individual who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts him in the public light, right, as well. And they say, well, we get an example of that. That's where Allah put that person, you see, because we can't limit Islam to that one hadith, you see. It's not all about that one hadith. And then also we have to be very careful too and of course, no reflection on anyone who's mentioned, but like when we start to judge the comprehensiveness of one's piety on just simply what they do on an individualistic basis, like such as praying, right, or such as doing dhikr, or reading the Quran, or fasting, right, that we have to be very careful that we not use that this is truly the sign that they've arrived, right? Because on the other hand, let's say an individual may do all those different things, and I meet you in the masjid and say, Allah, mashallah, the brother's always praying, he's always reading the Quran, he's always, every Mondays and Thursdays, he's fasting all the time. But I haven't seen him interact with his family. I don't know how he treats his children. I don't know how he treats his wives, right? And it might be that there's some mistreatment involved there as well. But that's part of the deen too, you see. That's part of the deen too. It's like the Sahabi who spent all this time praying and fasting, and his wife came complaining to the Prophet ﷺ, he doesn't give me any time. And then the Prophet told him, that your wife has rights over you, right? Fast sometimes, don't fast sometimes. Pray sometimes, don't pray other times. And so your wife, your family has rights as well. You see, so to judge it simply based upon that is a problem. So we have to read it as an integrated whole. The Islam, the Quran, the Sunnah is an integrated whole. So this is important as well. The other thing, the other things related to our interaction with people around us, Fenton.
It's kind of like giving preference to others and not being greed. I guess greed is being example to others' greed and giving preference to others. It's like you can have that woman, food, or any kind of thing. Because greed is like you want everything for yourself.
Right, yeah.
The opposite is you care about or give preference to others and you show your heart is not that attached to those things.
Yeah, right, totally. The issue of greed is connected with this, or the preference we call in Arabic al-ithar. Perhaps renounce probably wasn't the best translation for the second part of the hadith, but the idea of zuhd with regard to what people have is the idea that I fight my desire for what they have. That I resist. The desire to have what they have, you see. In the sense that I don't want his particular thing. It's okay for me to want something like his or her particular thing, right? But his or her particular thing, I don't want it, you see. So that's, so my heart, Right, yeah, exactly. Right, don't cover others, the property of your brother, yeah. Yes. Harun.
A couple more questions online. Ilham asks, as Muslims living in the West, some of us do not enjoy the halal pleasures such as going to the park, beach, sightseeing, fearing the fitna of being around non-Muslims. What are your thoughts? And then let me just put the other question in here. Our good friend Barry Danielin asks, first he gives his salams, and then asks, when using the word dunya in these matters, is it the world or actually the illusory aspects of, quote unquote, the world?
Yeah, I think the second part is easier. Of course, of course we mean the illusory aspects of the world, and so which is most of the world. That's the way that the spiritual masters sort of understand it. It's like, so it's not, of course, it's not that we hate the world. We shouldn't hate the world. Actually, that's one of the things one of the responses that Rabi al-Adawiyya had given to one of the Sufis who had come to her claiming that he had renounced the world and he had we call it nufra, sort of an aversion towards it. And she responded to him to say, the very fact that you have the aversion for it is proof that you have love for it as well. Because if you don't have love for anything else, then you don't have an aversion for it nor desire at the same time. So the different levels of Zuhd, So that was her level. Her level was like, listen, that the truth and truth that, if I hate you, is because there's something in me that actually, desires something from you at the same time, you see. So yeah, it's the illusory aspects of it. As for the first issue about going out to the park and and fearing the fitna of the non-Muslims, there's a lot of fitna from the Muslims sometimes too. But at any rate, yeah, we know. I think I know what you're talking about. Some of the fitna, but we have to be in the world. I mean, and we have to struggle our best to, when we see the creation of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, that we make it a moment of reflection. Even those non-Muslims, right, are a moment of reflection. They are brothers and sisters in humanity, right? We all come from Adam, alayhi salam, and Hawa, alayhi salam. That's where we come from. We all share that. And so some of us are lost. Some of us are more lost than others. Or we say all of us are lost if we read the hadith, the earlier hadith where the hadith is the hadith Qudsi, when it mentions, it said, Ya ibn Adam, kullukum dalun illa man hadaytu, that all of you are lost except for the ones I have guided, those I have guided. Fastahduni ahdikum, so seek guidance for me and I will guide you. We say, Ihdina Siratal Mustaqim, how many times a day? So all of us are lost in some regards, you see. That's what or at least we'll say that if we've been found, then we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He keep a handle on us, you see. So when we see people, there's a moment of reflection to be appreciative for what Allah has given us too. Right, that's another thing. In a moment to make dua for them, right, that Allah improve their condition. Have sincere concern for them, but none of that should prevent us from going out to reflect upon the ocean, or on the parks, the trees, all those different things. And we should go. We share this earth with people, And as the story goes, that that if the people on the top left the people on the bottom to chip away at it and crack a hole in the bottom, then the whole ship would sink. So we're all one nation in that sense. You see, we have to remember that, just that it takes a little bit of effort, that we learn patience with one another. And it takes some effort to try to help one another to get better. And that's not only just for Muslims, but for non-Muslims too. So how much more time do you have?
I think just 2 minutes, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking too, in regards to that question, just the fact that how do you even know somebody's not a Muslim?
Yeah, right.
I mean, obviously just based on an outward assumption.
Right.
What's it safer to assume about a person, that they're a person of faith or a person who has no faith?
Yeah, right.
And just the fact that we're here to interact and have transactions,
right?
Financial transactions, spiritual transactions,
right,
everything. And I think it's, especially as a convert myself, just always been kind of wary of that, looking at the non-Muslim. I was a non-Muslim.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that was you yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. I'm thankful that there were Muslims who gazed upon me.
Allah alaykum. Right. The Quran says, Allah, He conferred His blessing upon you. You were that way. He's speaking to Sahaba. Right. Sahaba, they were non-Muslim at one time too. so that's. Yeah, right. No, I think I think most non-Muslims have, they're people of goodwill. Most of the non-Muslims, because otherwise there are a lot more violence that be happening right now, against Muslims. Because the amount of, we get the reports, the care reports and things like that. But overall, that doesn't represent the overwhelming majority of non-Muslims. So overwhelming majority of non-Muslims are people of goodwill. And we should have that type of attitude. I think, we are required to have that type of attitude about people, and if we see something displeasing, from them, then, they have an excuse. If we can try to help, right? But if not courageous enough to do so, then, we can't really be very critical as well. And okay, last thing from our good brother here, Aaron, Abdullah. Bismillah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you want to take a certain way to that,
Mm-hmm.
that's still what you thereafter, or is that part of what you do? If you want a certain way, because the reason that related service, family,
No, right.
you know that you're
Oh, of course. I mean, the ways to Allah are all, I mean, the dunya mazra'atul akhirah is the planting ground for the hereafter. I mean, that's what it's for. That's its purpose. It's the aim of it, you see. So it's not evil. It says cursed, but it's not evil necessarily. Something being cursed doesn't necessarily make it evil, because, if it were just evil, then, why eat anything from it or drink anything in it or, have any type of enjoyment in it. So yeah, the path, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا, that whoever those who strive in our way, then we will guide them to our paths. So the paths leading us. And so there are many different paths, or different sort of doors to goodness, So, I mean, it could be, some can enter through the door of fasting, some through the door of charity, some through the door of tahajjud, some through the door of, of ithar, sort of preferring other altruism, I mean, many different ways, So some people, they're what they're good at, they can do. They can teach. Some people, they're good, they can inspire others. Some people, they can give money, to other people's cause. Because some people can build a masjid. I mean, there are different ways, to there. Mm-hmm. No, like I said, so desire that, because you created for it. Because if you're utilizing, so this is the issue of Zuhd. Part of it is about just reflecting upon why you're doing things. So it's like if I'm doing, for instance, if I go to work, take care of my family, if I eat with the sake of making my body strong for worship, if I plan for that rally, right, because I hope to make a better world, right? You follow me? So it's all of it, is part of what we're supposed to be doing. Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat linnas. You're the best nation brought out for humanity. Ta'muruna bil ma'ruf. You're enjoying what is good. Wa tanhawna 'anil munkar. And you forbid what is wrong. Wa tu'minuna billah. And you believe in Allah. So the social aspect of the interactionary aspect of Muslim life is an essential part of this. You see, so you're not the best ummah just because I'm a Muslim, right? Yeah, that's not the way it goes. So I pray all the time. That's why I'm a member of the best ummah. That's not what the Quran says. That's not what it implies. I pray all these prayers. I fast all these days. I pray tahajjud, No, and I learn all this Arabic, right? No, that's not what it says. It's, what makes you a member of the best ummah is for you the fact that you're enjoying good and forbid wrong. And then also you believe in Allah, but he's mentioned last. Right? It's not mentioned first, it's mentioned last. Right? And Umar ibn Khattab in the famous hadith, he said that وَمَنْ أَرَادَ أَنْ يُكُونَ مِنْ هَذِهِ أُمَّةِ فَيُؤَدِّ شَرْطَ اللَّهِ فِيهَا. That whoever wants to be from this ummah, then let him fulfill the condition which is mentioned there. So in that condition, enjoying good, forbid wrong, and then believe in Allah. So with that, we'll conclude, and I hope to engage you once again in the near future. Inshallah. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. Wa subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wal 'asr inna al-insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa 'amilus salihat wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. Wa subhana rabbika rabbil 'izzati 'amma yasifun wa salamun 'ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil 'alamin. Ameen. Assalamu alaykum.